It's looking more and more like war with Venezuela is on the menu, boys. Donald Trump has given Maduro an ultimatum to flee Venezuela as land operations loom. Warships are reportedly entering the area, and Donald Trump has de facto closed the airspace around Venezuela. Now, a lot of people are debating this, but it is, in fact, an act of war to declare the airspace closed over a country for a variety of reasons. Now, the reason Trump is doing it likely is because as the U.S. prepares to engage in military operations in Venezuela, we don't want anybody getting mixed up in a crossfire. You're going to have flights traveling from various countries that are going to go over Venezuela, usually because you're just, flying from Brazil to Mexico or something, if that route makes sense. I don't know. But Donald Trump is basically saying we are about to launch airstrikes. Not necessarily going to happen, but that's basically the idea. So now you're restricting domestic air travel over a country, which is going to restrict trade. It's going to cost a lot of money. And you're basically saying prepare for war. Hillary Clinton famously was warned of this back in, I think it was like 2014 or 15. She said she wanted the airspace over Syria closed. And she was warned that would be a declaration of war, not just against Syria, but against Russia. Now, this is different. In Syria, in Tartus, you have a Russian naval base, so they do have air capabilities. And if the United States shuts down that airspace, that's affecting Russia. Venezuela may or may not have some of these same elements, but it's not as direct. Either way, the U.S. is signaling hard. Ladies and gentlemen, war is about to land. And Maduro, you got a choice to flee, which is absolutely crazy. Apparently, Maduro, the Venezuelan dictator, they call him, who famously once ate an empanada on TV as his people were starving, is asking for global amnesty. Now, let me tell you what's really sad about Venezuela, my friends. I've been there. I had to flee the country. Weird story. They accused me of being a spy because they're communists. Their country used to be the wealthiest in South America. They have a lot of black gold down there, a lot of oil. Everybody wants it. Donald Trump says we're going to get it. And that's likely the big reason for all of this. But I'm not going to be so naive to say it's just that the U.S. is basically going, let's steal their oil. What the U.S. is basically saying is your stupid communist system is restricting the oil trade. We're not going to have that. I'm not excusing U.S. foreign military operations, but I'm just saying it's not as simple as the U.S. saying, we found oil, boys, let's go get it. They're basically saying, okay, you've bankrupted your country. The oil's not flowing properly. And you know what? There's a variety of issues here. I do think it's principally oil. And the companies are going to come in and take it. But again, I'm not justifying the old oil intervention. I'm saying the issue behind it is the mentality these corporations and the government has is if we get a new government in Venezuela, companies can start pumping oil. Venezuela's standard of living will dramatically improve. They will be wealthy again. And this is what happens when you let communists take over your country. They go from being a leading industrialized nation of wealth, the wealthiest, oil rich. And then Chavez comes in, and it's just the stupidest thing imaginable. They burn the whole thing down. They rip the wealth from the hands of those that work hard, and now the country's in collapse. And these American commies, they come out and they say, no, Tim, you're wrong. The CIA is interfering with it. I kid you not. This is the most fascinating thing about the whole pro-communism argument. They argue that the only reason the Soviets failed, their communistic vision, not the only, but some of these commies and socialists, they argue, well, if the U.S. and the spies weren't interfering, then the communists would have fared a lot better. They interfered in China. They interfered with the Soviets. Now, Venezuela elects truly a great socialist leader. And then now they get Maduro, who was a bus driver, by the way. And it's the CIA. Because the CIA, they just can't thrive. And it's like, it's a boogeyman, okay? Communism doesn't work. Socialism does not work. It extracts value, and then you enter a deficit. Don't get me wrong. The Ponzi scheme Federal Reserve System ain't much better. It's better in a lot of ways, actually, even though it's really bad. Let's read the news, though, my friends. Before we do, head over to timcast.com, click Join Us, and join us in the Timcast Discord server. As a member of the Discord server, we've got the 6 p.m. Timcast hosted show. I shouldn't say hosted, but guest show with Slick and Olivia, so you can hang out behind the scenes. We've got the Friday backstage pass. However, it is going to be particularly insane on Friday. I recommend you sign up for timcast.com right now for the Discord membership, because Friday we are going to have Milo Yiannopoulos and George Santos on at the same time. And I have to imagine that the behind-the-scenes backstage pass, we're going to be doing the show live this Friday, so it'll be around 7 o'clock. We'll bring up the backstage pass. It's going to be absolutely bonkers. But we can't do this work without you. It's only possible because you guys are on the Discord community, and you are making it, you are building it up, and that membership sustains all the work we do, including this morning show. So timcast.com. Let's get to the news, my friends. Oh, boy. Fox News reporting President Donald Trump delivered a stern ultimatum to Nicolas Maduro to leave Venezuela immediately before announcing the country's airspace should be closed, according to a report. Per the Miami Herald, Washington's warning was delivered in a phone call with Caracas and offered guaranteed evacuation for Maduro, his wife Cilia Flores, and their son, but only if the dictator agreed to resign on the spot. The conversation stalled, U.S. officials said. Within hours, Washington escalated dramatically. The ensuing impasse, a source told the outlet, was over Maduro's asking for global amnesty for any crimes he and his group had committed, and that was rejected. Yo, that's a crazy thing to ask for, because it implies Maduro knows he's committed very serious crimes in this country. Second, they asked to retain control of the armed forces, similar to what happened in Nicaragua in 91 with Violeta Chamorro. In return, they would allow free elections. Oh, so ridiculous. The final issue was timing, according to the outlet, as Washington demanded that Maduro resign immediately, but Caracas refused. Trump went on to announce Saturday that Venezuelan airspace would be considered closed in its entirety. I think I've got an image of this. Bro, it is cooking. It is heating up. Look at this. There's Venezuela. Ain't no planes flying over it. Donald Trump didn't officially, formally close the airspace. I think he just truth post. It's a truth post, and they were like, all right, we're not going to fly over Venezuela anymore. He's basically told the world, don't get in the crossfire. Because there was that flight over Ukraine, I don't know if you guys remember this, that got shot down. That's a crazy story. Commercial flight shouldn't have happened. Terrifying stuff, man. Trump went on to announce would be closed. The Herald also reported that the Maduro government tried to schedule another call to Washington, but received no response. The fascinating thing about all of this is they're basically saying, like, Maduro, you can leave right now, and you will be rich. Just go away. And he's like, nah. And this is what's always crazy to me about these despots and these dictators. Now, don't get me wrong. The U.S. is not a moralist, like a pure moral force. I don't believe the United States are all just inherently the good guys or anything dumb like that's very naive and one-dimensional comic book hero and villainy garbage. I do ever think Maduro is a scumbag who has burnt his country to the ground following Chavez, and there's very serious problems in that nation that are not improving, and I've been there. Horribly mismanaged, and people are suffering. So what I don't understand is, okay, when you've failed, I can understand certainly being like, I'm not going to let a foreign country dictate our leadership. I'm not going to let someone tell me what to do. Rather, die on my feet than live on my knees. But at a certain point, all of these leaders, in all of their failure, I'm not saying literally every single one failed. I'm saying every single time the U.S. intervened, it was good. I'm saying at a certain point, when you've lost, retreat isn't giving up. That's my point. Maduro's sitting here being like, well, they're going to come and kill us all. Guess we'll just burn the country to the ground. And I'm like, or you can give up. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess I kind of get it, but I think these are bad guys. Like, Maduro is a bad guy. And that's probably the real issue. And I guess my fault is I'm looking at it like this. If I was the manager of a company and I was failing and I could see the company was doing bad, I would abdicate. I would say, guys, I'm clearly doing something wrong here. I can't do this job anymore. That's me. That's me. If I was in Congress, or if I was a mayor, or if I was a governor or president, and things were going really, really poorly, and I didn't have a handle on it, president's a different story, because you can actually have people come in and say, you don't have to, and being a symbol matters. Like, you want to boost morale. But if I was like the executor of some jurisdiction and it was failing miserably and I couldn't handle it, yeah, no kidding. I'd literally be like, all right, you guys are right. Like, I'm not doing this properly. Okay. Maduro, however, and his ilk don't have that view. He hasn't looked at his country over the past 20 years and said, wow, we've destroyed the standard of living in this country. I should let someone else try. He says, I'm going to eat an empanada on TV. So again, that's not to justify any kind of U.S. intervention. I'm actually opposed to it. I don't think that Trump should be doing this. Not a fan. No new wars. We can't feed the poor, but we got money for wars, as the saying goes. I say focus on internal, divisions. How we can mend this country and preserve it. This ain't it. This ain't it. So anyway, my friends, where we're currently at, they're going to say on Sunday, Trump told reporters about Air Force One not to read anything into his declaring Venezuela's airspace closed. However, my friends, from the week, is the U.S. preparing to invade Venezuela? 10 warships led by carrier USS Gerald R. Ford head to the Caribbean. Oh, boy. And we actually got similar news in August that the U.S. was deploying warships into the Gulf, into the Caribbean. And we believe this may be tied to a full-scale invasion of Venezuela. And I'm going to tell you why it's bad, my friends. Listen, we're going to pull up our old friend, the debt clock here. It's always difficult to explain to people why this matters and what the problem with the war is, blah, 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 all of these things, right? Okay. Here's the U.S. debt clock. The famous website's been around forever. And we can see the U.S. national debt is nearing $38 trillion. And we can see that the U.S. federal budget deficit is actually, surprisingly, it's going down. That's great. They're reducing the deficit. I don't know that I believe that's true. Federal spending is going up. Deficit is going down. Means they got to bring in more money. Okay, here's the issue. When we spend massive amounts of money on war in Venezuela or any other country for that matter, in order to pay for this, the resources to supply these troops comes from the labor you do. We got a big, complicated economy with a lot of different sectors, but I'll put it like this. Here's the old story of how they funded their military. You got 5 guys, and they're all, they all live on farms. Or let's just leave it at that, okay, right? So one guy grows the bread, he grows a wheat. He trades the wheat to the guy who makes the bread, who gets the milk from the guy who does the cows and all that, right? And so you don't really need money. It's a small thing. And they all trade with each other, and everybody's happy. And then one day they say, guys, it'll be easier if we use, someone comes in and says, guys, it's easier if you use money to trade because then, you can track everything better, right? And then you know how much everything's worth. And, the wheat guy doesn't go to the bread guy who has to go to the dairy guy. You can just use the money and buy what you need when you need it. And they go, oh, that's a good idea. Now the guy who controls the printing of money literally doesn't do any work. But because people are trading with this cash, he just shows up and says, I'll buy this from you. Well, sooner or later, what happens? Inflation. The guy who makes the bread says, I made more than enough money to buy what I need and fix up my house. I don't need to do more work right now. And then the guy comes in and says, I need bread from you. And he goes, I'm not interested. I got more than enough money. And he says, well, hold on. I'll pay you more. And he goes, oh, okay, I'll get paid more. Basically, what the U.S. military does it's the Federal Reserve System. It's not just in the military. Basically, there's no labor exchange in military. This is the important thing, you guys, I think that matters for all this war stuff. There's no labor exchange. A troop going to Venezuela and or a carrier group, with all due respect to the troops, I'm not, I got respect. But no one in the United States is benefiting from the labor directly. One could make the argument that it's a necessity to defend America's freedoms or whatever it is. Listen, I understand the strikes in the Caribbean, however you pronounce it. We can have that debate on whether or not Hegseth is right or wrong to be blowing up these narco boats. And there are people arguing they're not narco boats, they're fishermen. Well, it's an interesting debate. It's one thing when we know for a fact Obama was blowing up kids. Okay, the drone strikes targeting civilian targets. There were collateral damage casualties, really bad. You had the video collateral murder. These things, abject wrong. The argument they made was the president has the leeway on the foreign policy. Bro, they bombed a Reuters journalist, okay? Get out of here. They killed an American citizen eating at a civilian cafe in Yemen. Spare me. That being said, when it comes to the Caribbean, I'm not going to outright just defend the bombing of these targets. However, it's not as clear cut. If the issue is these are narco boats smuggling massive amount of drugs into the country, which is what they purport to be, and the U.S. government has actually published this themselves of it, I have questions, and I believe we must be prudent and demand evidence and investigations. That's fine. But I actually give the benefit of the doubt to our Secretary of War in this matter, meaning when they publish the videos and they say, you look for yourself, narco boat, we can challenge that. It's fine. But it's different from when the Obama administration goes, oopsie, we killed a kid. I'm not kidding. That's literally what they said. When they killed a 16-year-old American by targeting a civilian restaurant and bystanders, by the way, they said, we thought there was a terror leader in there. And my response immediately is, but there were innocent civilians in there too. And you're bombing a restaurant in Yemen. See, this is a boat in the Caribbean. Some guys on it. They're dead. I don't like people dying, but these are evil people, purportedly. I would like to see the evidence, and I think it's fine that we challenge administration, but I give them the benefit of the doubt on this one because we got a military for a reason to defend our borders, defend our country, and this is one of the ways you do it. That being said, as it pertains to Venezuela, I'm going to tell you this. We spend money on defense for a reason. These narco boats, they're killing our kids. They're plaguing our city streets. It's disgusting. It's horrifying. Black market, criminal cartel garbage. We don't want it. And you know what? When that guy comes to me and says, I want bread, why? Well, I'm going to make sure that the guy's not coming in here and murdering your kids. I say, fair point. That's a service. That's a normal service. A guy comes and says, I protect you while you sleep. You give me a loaf of bread. We say, okay. But what about the guy who says, no, hear me out. You give me that loaf of bread. I'm going to go to some other country, okay, far away. And it's like, well, I understand the argument that Venezuela is effectively a narco state. They're sending criminals and drugs who are coming our way. But it's not a good argument that we're not getting the direct value exchange. One could make the argument that, it's going to improve things because we're going to stop the narco trafficking and it's going to clean up the area. Now you're just world police. And that's where there's an interesting debate. So the point is this. I show you this U.S. debt clock because as our debt grows, and it does, it's funny, the deficit going down is good, right? But let me explain. The deficit is our spending exceeds our income. So it's like you're racking up credit card debt. The deficit just means like you're going to keep increasing the debt. Until the deficit goes to zero, you're going to keep increasing the debt. And what does that mean? The debt is largely owed to the American people. This means that most of the debt is like contractors, corporations, whatever. The U.S. government owes them money and has to pay that back with interest. And now interest on the debt has become the fourth largest line item. If our debt to GDP right now is 121%, this means that you're going to start seeing hyperinflation, right? We are not producing enough to compensate for the spending we are doing. And there's this viral video where a dude's like, it's been 1 year, I'm at Costco, and it's nuts. Like $3 for mayonnaise, now it's $8. He's like, this can of beans was $2.99, now it's $7.99. And he's like, they're telling you that inflation is 5 to 10%, but look at the cost of groceries. Trump goes on TV and says the cost is going down. It is not. It is not going down. I don't know about you. I go to the grocery store and I'm shocked. Now, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't go to the grocery store and I look at the prices and I go, oh no, I can't. No, I go there. I can afford it. That's obvious. But it is shocking to me when we fill up, we get 3 paper bags full of groceries. We get like a little bit of meat. We don't get anything crazy. Get our proteins in there. Get some peanut butter, some cream, maybe some milk, bread, and eggs. And the bill comes out to like $200, $300. I'm not a fan of this. And maybe the argument they're making, or I don't think they'd make this directly, is, hey, if we go and blow up, get Maduro out of there, maybe that oil money is going to make everything a lot better. Well, to be honest, I'm going to let you in on the dark, dark secret, my friends. You want to live comfortably? You want stable prices? This is America's chief export. War. What are we producing, right? We give our manufacturing away. We get our aluminum from Canada, despite the fact they don't have bauxite mines. Okay, so they import it from China. We could have these refineries, but instead we shut them down to build data centers in PA. So, what value do we have in this country to better our economy and live like kings while doing little work relative to the rest of the world? We're real good at shooting people. Yeah, honestly, we're the best, and everyone knows it. So we knock out Maduro. We pump that oil onto the market. We control the petrodollar. You get cheap gas. You get cheap food. Perfect, isn't it? That's America, my friends. And the reality is this. I told people this in 2016. I said it before. I'll say it again. Back when Trump was running, I said, do you want to do barely any work weird jobs that shouldn't generate wealth, and just have money? Hillary Clinton's your candidate. Do you want American honor, nay, nobility, hard work, but good rewards? Then Trump was your candidate. Now, I know people are going to come out and they're going to be like, but Trump's nasty and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's fine. You can, I'm not, say whatever you want about Trump. My point is this. The crotchety Hillary Clinton plan of go to war with Russia and Syria and all this stuff establishes power in the liberal economic order. It means your borders will be wide open. It's going to be flooded with immigrants and illegal immigrants. But this means there will be cheap labor. And that means you as an American can sit on your couch and slowly waste away until it's all gone. But that's not what people feel in the immediate. What they feel in the immediate is we go to war, we do these things. You get the crotchety neoliberal plan. Yeah, they're going to flood the country with illegal immigrants. It's going to cause a lot of problems internally. But your favorite burger joint will remain open as they now have the low-skilled labor to come in and pay the bills. To come in and as I should say, do those jobs and expand the economy for seemingly no reason. Like, what is the chief export of the United States? For those that don't understand, many of you do. In order to maintain a strong economy, you need more exports than imports. Basically, you need to do more work than buying. It's that simple. Debt to GDP. If you live at home and if you have a house, I shouldn't even say if you have a house. If you're working a job and you're spending $1,000 a week, but you're making $900, you're in a deficit. You're racking up debt. In order to be able to expand your house, move on up, build a savings, you need to spend less than you make. That's every country. You need to do more work for everyone else. And instead, the United States does not do that. The United States just says, we'll blow you up, and we control the petrodollar. Well, the Saudi petrodollar deal expired. It's not re-upped, and we're now competing with people trading oil in yuan and other rubles, other currencies. So we'll see. Trump seems to be going a little bit into the neoliberal, neocon, neoliberal. And I think the Republican play right now is, after Trump, they want to go neocon. They want to go world police all over again, and they're going to find reasons to do it. There's a lot to talk about there. But I'm going to wrap it up for you, my friends. I'm not a fan of the war, and I don't want it. I think Maduro's a scumbag, communist, but I think we'd be better off creating internal working structures for our economy where we actually do the work to increase our wealth instead of playing the stupid neocon, liberal economic order BS. But that's just me. I'll leave it there. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Stay tuned. We got more coming up for you today. Timcast. And we'll see y'all then.